family, it's been a long time, I know, but I'm here and I have a lot to talk to you about. But as you can see by the title, this video is going to be all about our decision as a family to go from homeschool to unschooling. Now I know, you're like, but what's the difference? So I don't have any notes, and I have been meaning to do this video for probably a month or more now. And I meant to write some notes so I could get to all the questions and things that people were asking. I made this post on Facebook on my main page. And people had lots of comments and questions, and I was asking people if they homeschool or if they unschool and why, and if they sent their children to regular, traditional public school or private school, why. And I got kind of some opposite answers to that question. More people were honing in on their wanting to homeschool, or if they were homeschooling, their thoughts. I don't think anybody was unschooling that commented. And if they were, I think they were just... I don't think anybody was. So I am here to shed some light on our experience, and we've only been homeschooling this school year. But our homeschooling, if you know anything about, unschooling, if you know anything about unschooling, ours is not traditional. And it's not, unschooling is not traditional anyway. That's the whole kind of premise and purpose of unschooling. It's because it's not traditional. But I'm gonna do compare and contrast, I guess. I just want to say compare and contrast. I don't know if that's what it is. Like, I went to English class, but is that really what I'm about to do? I want to compare homeschool and unschool. And my hope is that somewhere in this video, you will see some clips of our girls, we call them freaking frack, sharing their thoughts as the actual students of unschooling. And I'm doing these quotations because everything that I'm saying is really not, when you talk about unschooling, there's no student, there's no learning, there's no process, there's no, it just is, right? But I'm going to break it down because when I started learning about homeschool and we got into homeschool, we homeschooled for 3 years, 3 consecutive years. My kids have been out of school going on 4 years now. Traditional public school. And I'm a little chilly, so if I have to reach down and turn my heater on for a second, it may give a little hum and buzz and be a little bit noisy, but forgive me. And my lighting is probably not the best, but y'all can see me, I'm here. Year 4, that would have been our 4th year homeschooling, actually is our 1st year unschooling. And I didn't go into year 4 saying I'm gonna unschool. I went into year 4 saying something has to give. Like, I'll get to it. But when we decided to start school for year 4, it ended up that we were unschooling. So here is our unschooling journey. And I'll share more in the future because from a lot of different aspects, there's different questions and different understandings and premises when it comes to unschooling as well as homeschool. Like, homeschool is fairly still, it's not new, but it's a new concept to where more people are doing it now, and more people that normally would not have doing it are doing it. And a lot of people I hear, they're looking for this as an alternative homeschooling because their children are being bullied. Now, that is partially our story and why we started homeschooling. I'm not even gonna go down that ramp today because it'll get me upset all over again, because every time I think about somebody possibly not protecting my child in a public school setting, when part of your job is to care for the children along with teaching them, I just have a whole problem with that. And I never, ever, ever will put my children in a situation within my power to where I depend on someone else to guard them and protect them. And people have said it, and it's a saying, nobody's going to care about your whatever, fill in the blank, as much as you will. Your child, your life, your business, your money, your whatever. But when it comes to our children, we unfortunately had to experience that firsthand with not one, not 2, but 3 different educational settings. And so at that point, I was definitely reassured that I was not crazy, I was not tripping, and that it was time to make a change after I had told myself for about 2.5 years that there's no way I could be a homeschool parent, because who am I to homeschool? I got a GED, and that wasn't really why, because I had a GED. I'm a smart chick. Let's not get it twisted. But I was just like, I don't feel capable. And math kept coming back to me. Like, oh, math was the subject I struggled in. And then when I went to college and actually retook all of these math principles, and I actually understood them, and I was getting A's in math for the first time in my life since elementary school. I was like, it comes down to the person that's teaching. And this is why I say, even in my business and entrepreneurial life, I am a very good teacher myself, because I understand what it is to have a concept and you not be able to grasp it simply because the person teaching it, they know it. I've had a math teacher who had a master's in math, a master's degree in mathematics. But I could not pass her class when I had just come from another teacher teaching math concepts that I once could not get in high school. And I made an A in his class. And he did not slack. He was a tough teacher, but I made an A, and he encouraged me to skip the next math class because I was doing so well in there. And I was like, ugh, don't feel that confident. But I always thought I couldn't homeschool because I can't do math. And I went to another college professor who had a master's degree in math, and I couldn't get her concept. So it really comes down to people teaching it in a way that you can understand it, because there's no way one professor I can get an A in, and then the next on the concepts that I've already built on that I'm confident in, and I know these concepts on testing, going to the board, writing, doing homework at home by myself, it felt right and it felt good and I did well. And then I go and here I am getting C's and D's again in math, and C's were skating. They weren't high C's. And so all of that just helped me to reassure myself that it doesn't mean that I can't help them in math. And if need be, I just need to find them the right tutors, the right online programs or online support. And so we made the decision 4 years ago to start homeschooling, just after some other stuff was happening, the bullying, just staff and administration. And when I say administration, meaning I went to the school district, the school board in one place, one state where we live. And then in another state, we had issues with the school, from some of the students to some actual physical incidents, to the point where I just didn't feel my daughter was being protected. And when it came down to an actual physical incident and we had to go to the school, have a conversation, I had many phone calls. And then the teacher that was supposed to make sure the situation stayed at bay between the students, because she was in the same class with the person who had some physical contact with her, she brought her in front of the whole class to ask her what happened in the incident. And that was the last straw. Like, that's like confronting your accuser in a what is the word? In a high pressure environment. That's not the word, but hostile environment. Like, you're going to ask me what the person did to me in front of the whole class, and that person is in here and I'm already terrified because they've already physically put their hands on me. Y'all, I really am. I want to live my life saved as possible and just try not to sweat the small stuff. But when it comes to my children, it's not small. And I always would repeat the phrase, I will go to jail for my children. And what you speak is what you get in life. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. I believe the word of God. So I had to correct and stop speaking that because it was about to be true. And you have now allowed my child to not only be physically harassed, emotionally bullied, and now the person that's supposed to help protect her, the teacher, is not even willing to do it. And this happened in 2 different schools, 3 different settings of people. And so that's how we got to homeschool. I said I wasn't going to go down the road, but I thought I'd give you a little background because I know this is familiar for a lot of people, bullying or the school just not being up to par on what they offered or whatever the case may be. So at that point, it was like, either you're going to homeschool or you're going to let them continue to go to school and be in this situation. And I really didn't think private school was going to be any better, but I wasn't willing to find the money to pay for an experiment to see if it was better. And so the best thing I could think about was bringing them home and keeping them home from school. And they never, and I talked to them about it and they were excited about it. And it was the best thing we could have ever done. We ended up traveling. Most of you know, if you follow me on any social media, Instagram, by the way, follow me on Instagram. I am Shayla Smart. It's probably changed from the last time. If you haven't already followed me, I am Shayla Smart on Instagram, and then on my Facebook business page, I am Shayla Smart on Facebook. I am Shayla Smart on Instagram, and then I am Shayla Smart, on Facebook as well. And so we traveled to Thailand, and we lived in Thailand for 3 full months, which was amazing. I had my business. My husband had his eBay business. I had my coaching and consulting and digital product business, and our girls were homeschooled. And so we were living the dream, right? We didn't have to worry about being anywhere on any specific time for anybody because we had life freedom. And that's another thing that we really loved and why we were so excited. In the year before we went to Thailand, we traveled 9 months out of the year throughout the United States, but we were on a plane every single month for 9 months out of that. I think the family traveled 8 months. I traveled 9 months because I was going on a lot of business trips, and I had a tour going on and all of that. And so the freedom not to have to check in with the school, not to have them counting your days off, that you took the kids out of school and, you know, threatening truancy and all of that kind of stuff, I was very happy with. And so that freedom was just like, okay, you made the right decision. However, there were some struggles when it came to getting them up to grade level. The first year was really good. I planned out my own curriculum. I went to the teacher's bookstore and bought curriculum. I printed off worksheets from K through 5. I printed off free worksheets from other websites. They were reading. They've always read really well. My girls were reading in preschool very well. They were probably reading on a college level somewhere around 3rd grade or so. They've always been really good readers. And I started with flashcards when they could barely talk. And so they read really well. We were just consistent. And I read to them, not as much as I wanted to or should have in the womb, but they started getting read to and getting the repetitions of reading early when I was pregnant with both of them. And then when they were born, they both had the flashcards, and Sesame Street helped us out a lot. So they've always read really, really well. And then it took some time to get a understanding of what they wanted to learn versus what I was teaching. Because when I first started homeschool, and if you are homeschooling or thinking about homeschooling, this may become true for you. So let me just tell you from my experience, and this is kind of what pushed me into unschooling as well. So when I started homeschooling, I was teaching from a traditional school perspective. We got to do math. We got to do language arts. We got to do history. We got to do whatever. Now, what I did do was I implemented the lunch break. I implemented 2 breaks for like going outside, and then another break for just like a bathroom break, get up and stretch, move around. And so everything I did was based on the traditional setting, which was embedded in me because I went to traditional school. And my children and I, you know, participated a lot at their school. So just the regular traditional school setting. I worked in a daycare way back when. And so just the pattern of the normal day of learning. And that's what I brought into the homeschool atmosphere. So it was at one point I just stopped and I told my husband, I said, this is just like them going to regular school. The only difference is they're at home, but I have them on the same schedule pretty much. We started a little bit later in the day, and then we had half days on Fridays, but for the most part, they're on the same schedule, doing the same mundane routine that they would do at a regular school. So what's the purpose in homeschooling? Well, I could teach more African American history. I could teach them more life skills, and all of that was great and fun. And they learned a lot. And we go to the grocery store and we would stand in the produce aisle and learn how to weigh items, how to decide how much a pound or a half a pound or a third of a pound or something would cost. So we did all those things that you would think, oh, this is me stretching them out for homeschool. And I'm not knocking anybody because that's what we did, but it was soon into that first year, going into the second year, and then we traveled. I think about the second year we traveled. So there was a lot of different type of learning, but I started to watch how they learned, how they experienced things when we went to Thailand and we traveled overseas, different languages, different communications, us being a African-American family in a completely Asian culture. Some people have never seen Black or brown people ever in their life. And so just understanding culture, and we just got to dive in a different way. And that was the best experience, We talked to people there, some people from Australia, some people from America that were actually living there, and their children were going to school in Thailand. So we thought about that. But I just couldn't get around to letting my children go to a foreign school and not speak the language and just not having, those same having those communication barriers, even though there were some American teachers there. We didn't get that far. And so we just got to, get an understanding of what schooling was like. And then some people that actually were homeschooling because they were traveling expat families just like us. And so it was great. So that year they kind of got a world learning through the 3 months that we were in Thailand, our travels through China, our travels the year prior, flying from place to place. And people were like, you're not in school. We would go to the store and people were like, you guys didn't have school today? And they'd say, oh, we're homeschool. And people would be so amazed. Oh my gosh, you're homeschool. And I'm sure a lot of us, because we were a Black family, Washington State, where we currently are, I think it's only like 13 or 16% Black in the state. And so everything that we do that's not normal is kind of amplified because we are a Black family doing it, which is fine, whatever. But a lot of people would take we would get a lot more attention and questions on it, which we're happy to answer, because we believe that us being able to answer those questions is us being able to educate people on situations that they may not know. I even ran into one of the girls, former, I don't know if she was a teacher, but she did something at the school, substitute or something. And we ran into her in the grocery store, a little bit after we had started, or before we started homeschooling. And she's like, oh yeah, hey, you guys, your girls are so sweet. I see them at school, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh yeah, they won't be there next year. And she's like, really? You guys are moving? I was like, well, we're going to start homeschooling. She's like, oh, do you have a teacher's degree, certificate in teaching? And I was like, no, but I've been their mom and I taught them everything they know. Taught them how to read, taught them how to go to the potty, taught them how to tie their shoes, taught them how to talk, taught them how to use their manners. And this is something that I had gained because before, remember, I didn't think I was capable of homeschooling. But then this is the exact conversation I had with myself. You taught them from the beginning. Everything they learned before you handed them off to preschool was you. Like, you taught them that. Between myself and my husband, like, everything they learned up until that point had come from us. Like, if I can't be their teacher, who can? Right? And so that's the conversation that actually moved me into homeschooling with a little bit more confidence than I had when I first started thinking about it. And I overthought it for 2 years. Okay, I'm going to turn my heater on for a second. It'll warm my little legs up. It's cold here. So hopefully that's not too disruptive. So anyways, unschooling. So 3 years homeschooling, and probably the first year I started to feel worn out. One, because I run a full-time business. I have now restructured my life. I'm gonna do a whole nother video on my fresh start and the conversation that I've had with myself and with God about starting over fresh. Like, throw the whole life away. Just let me keep my husband, my children, my current happy, good state of mind, and my love of God in Jesus, and everything else is up for redo. And so I'm gonna do a whole video on that. But and I found out that a lot of you are in that space as well. So hopefully this will be a good, helpful conversation for everyone. But yeah, so Unschool. So after the first year, or somewhere in the first year, we were having fun. It was good. It felt good. The children, they loved a routine because that's what they knew. But before they ever went to school, they had a routine, right? When you have toddlers, a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, they have nap time. They have time that they eat lunch and dinner. And, children love structure. I do believe that. However, I do believe that structure is relative to the situation and to the individual child. Our children, 2 girls, one 14 and one 11, almost 12. They have 2 totally different personalities. They get along great. They have a lot of things in common because they're only 2 years apart, 2 years, 2 months apart. But they are 2 totally different beings, 2 totally different people. And I have never tried to treat them like they're one. I've always made sure they had their individuality, although I may have dressed them alike, or if I buy one something, I buy the other one, that sort of kind of thing. But they're 2 totally different people, right? And so for the longest time, figuring out what worked for one and what worked for the other one when the things didn't marry. I'm not gonna say it was tough, but it was something that made me really think like, okay, we got to do something different because I'm being worn out, because I'm planning curriculum. I am teaching the curriculum. I am doing the meals. I'm keeping the house. I am running the errands. I am running a business. Like, it's a lot, right? It's a lot. And so I started to go through this whole thing of my own, of being unfulfilled. You guys have probably seen that video not too long ago, and I went through this whole meltdown crisis thing in May. And so in May 2019, at the time of this recording, it's November 2019. But I had to stop and really reflect and get my life together for me. And so part of that was, what is it that I'm doing that's making me unhappy? What are some things that are completely just like I can do without? And homeschooling was one of them. Mind you, like I said, I'd already started feeling this even after the first year. I just felt fatigued. Not that I didn't like homeschooling or that I wanted to send them back to school. And I offered them whenever they wanted to go back to regular public school, they could go. They just had to tell me. And so this school year, they were supposed to go back to school was the plan. And the closer we got, the more they said no. And my oldest, she started to have this kind of emotional, like you could see it in her face. You could see her tense whenever we talked about her going back to school. And she's like, I just don't want to. I don't want to go. It's too much crazy stuff happening. I just don't want to go. Well, she had a terrible experience in the last couple of years of school, so I'm sure she doesn't want to go. And then there would be times they would talk about going and they want to, hang out with their friends and blah, 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 blah. But for the most part, she just didn't want any parts. She did not want to go back to public school. And the youngest, I don't think she ever really wanted to go back. She was just going to go with the flow. If we went back, she was okay. If she didn't, she was okay still. But I know after being out of school for 3 years, it is hard to make that transition to getting up early, to getting on another schedule that you've been off of. And so, if they don't want to go back, they don't have to go back. I never was going to force them to go back because I never really wanted them to go back. That was just what we had started talking about. And it seemed as they got older, that was kind of what they wanted to do. But eventually, once I had the conversation with our oldest a couple times, and she would just have this visceral reaction to the conversation. Like you could almost see her shaking, like she would get really upset. And I'm like, this is really bothering you. And it happened a couple times. I didn't really say anything. I saw it, but I didn't say anything to her. But by the third time, I'm like, you get really tense. And I talked to my husband about it. I was like, she gets really upset. And he could care less if they go back either. Like, no, because we've had so many issues, right? And so I said, well, something has to give. And so I just happened to get online one day, and I probably had watched some videos a couple of different times of people talking about unschooling, which I just thought, I would never unschool my child. It's so unruly. It has no control, And so I was like, okay. I got online, YouTube, and this video of this family that I watched popped up. And I didn't even know they were unschooling parents. I knew they homeschool because they travel in an RV, but I didn't know they were actually unschoolers, which is, if you don't know what unschooling is, I probably should have explained this at the beginning, but it's just a complete pull away from the traditional setting of school, even homeschool. It's not homeschool. It's not traditional school. It is unschooling. You are helping your child and yourself, which is something I've learned, to unlearn the traditional process of school and what is taught in the systematic, I'm going to just say it and leave it there for you, systematic setup that is public school. The governmental systematic setup that is public school. Now, wait a minute, Shayla, are you going all radical? It's not even about that. It just is what it is. I didn't make it up. I didn't make the rules, but it is a governmental systematic setup is traditional school. And now that I'm on the outside looking in, I sit and I'm like, oh my gosh, thousands and thousands of people send their children to school every day. They are entrusting the government and teachers who are paid poorly. My mother-in-law is a teacher. One of my best friends is a teacher. And one of my other best friends, I have 3 of them. One of my other best friends is, she used to be a substitute teacher. So I'm surrounded by and I have an uncle who is a teacher currently. So I'm surrounded by people who are in the school, in the system. So it has nothing to do with the bias. It is just the truth. They're in this public school arena, and I am just so against the public school arena. And even one of my best friends, who is a teacher, is totally in the same boat, and she's actually removing herself into a different aspect of teaching. But I say that to say, like, you don't know what you don't know, but I definitely set it up and made my life fit a positioning that allowed me to be able to keep my kids home. And I know some people work full time, some people can't not send their children to school because they don't have an alternate choice. But I say, if it's that important, this is your child. This is the person that was part of your body. If it really is something that's on your heart, and I'm not judging people who do, I'm just saying the system is what the system is, and it's not good. I'm not judging people who send their children to school, and homeschooling may not be the fit for everybody. I don't know that traditional school is the alternative to not being homeschooled, but I don't know. But for those who want and who have reached out to me through social media over the years, because, you know, this is our 4th year in this arena, who want to homeschool their children, you got to find a way to do it if it's really what you want, right? Kids are gonna they only know what we expose them to, just like good credit, just like saving money. If that was not taught to you as a child, very few people pick it up on their own. Most people pick it up after a bad experience of growing up and not having money. You pick up saving, you pick up, you know, keeping your credit straight, you pick up investing. But most people, if it's not taught to you, you go through life and you do things the complete opposite way because you don't know another way. So you send your children to school traditionally because you don't know another way. It's normalized, and that's the scary part. We have made it normal. And again, I'm not judging. I'm just telling you my thought process and how we got from traditional school to homeschool and to now unschool. So what I'm going to do, because this video is getting to be a little bit long, I'm going to do a part 2 video, which will have myself and my girls talk about their experience. And this is, I don't know what they're gonna say. I'm almost scared. But just let them say their piece and their thought on homeschooling, traditional school, homeschooling, and now unschooling, and what that feels like and what it really means from a child's perspective, to have gone through all 3 and what they like best. And then also in part 2, I want to talk more about, maybe I'll come back with my notes. I'm going to talk more about what we do as an unschooling family, what that means to us, because it's not traditional. I know you may have heard of free range if you've heard of unschooling. What I don't go for, because unschooling is not just about school and education. It's about the lifestyle as a whole. And so for some unschooling families, and for a lot of unschooling families, they give their children free range in everything. And I also really want to talk about the whole aspect of what I've learned as an unschooling parent, and even what my husband and I have had to learn, the conversations that we've had, let you in on our business a little bit, on our secret conversations, and also the control factor that you may be feeling right now in this moment, thinking, I could never unschool. Homeschool, maybe, but unschool, if you know anything about or have heard anything about unschooling, you're probably like, Shayla's tripping. I could never. But I'm going to tell you, because I said the same thing when I first got introduced to homeschooling life and found out unschooling was a thing, because I had no clue. I knew about homeschooling, but I had no clue unschooling was a thing. And I found out about it. The first thing out of my mouth, in my mind and out of my mouth, was, I would never do that. That's too far. That's extreme. That is not for us. And here we are. So I'm going to talk about that and the control piece, and also the control piece attached to a mindset of slavery and bondage. Not trying to get too deep on you, but follow me over to part 2. I'm going to upload these back to back, but I'm just going to cut it in half so you can watch half and then watch the other half without the video being too long. So I'll see you guys over in part 2.
Hi, my name is Jayla. I'm an unschooling student.
Okay, so you've gone to traditional school, you've gone through being a homeschooler for 3 years, and now in year 4 of being out of traditional school, you're doing deschooling or unschooling as we know it. What are your thoughts on the different types of schooling that you've experienced?
I think I prefer unschooling over all of them. I feel like I have the most freedom there. But with regular school, it's just 8 hours of sitting in a class with a bunch of people. And like how school is set up, if one person does one thing wrong, everybody takes the fall. But if you're homeschooled or unschooled, you kind of get to do your own thing, and your mistakes aren't counted for other people. So I think unschooling is better than the other 2 I've done, because homeschooling is basically classic school, but at home.
Okay. So what is it about unschooling or deschooling that you like the most? As you said, it's better than all the rest. So what is it about unschooling that's the best, or your preference?
I think unschooling gives you more freedom than both of the two. I feel like I can do more stuff that I'd actually use in the next few years or things that I care about. And I can take my own classes at my own pace and not force myself to do other things that I'm not interested in.
So what are some of the things that you're not interested in that if you were in regular school you would probably have to do?
Algebra.
So do you ever think you will take algebra or need algebra?
I don't think I'll need it, but a lot of people take it, usually college students and things like that. But I don't think I'll need it.
Do you plan to go to college?
I don't think so. I don't think I need to go to college.
Why not?
Honestly, why spend 4 years going to school, and then when you get out of school, you get paid not enough, barely enough to live. So I think it'll be better for me to open up my own business or work somewhere where I don't have to get a college degree.
Okay, so, and look at the camera. What do you think you would do for a career without a college degree? Because some things you need a college degree if you want to be a veterinarian, because you love animals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted to be a veterinarian, you'd have to go to college and you'd probably have to learn algebra. So what if what you want to be or do requires college? Or do you know what you want to do and you know it doesn't require college?
I don't know what I want to do yet. I thought about becoming a veterinarian, but it changes every day. So,
and why does it change? Does it change because you may have to go to college, or does it change because of the career path, or?
It usually changes because of the school and then how much time it takes and just overall so much effort and stuff.
So we have talked about certain things in life. There's a process. It's not our choice. It's not our rules. It's not our way of doing things. But like college, if you want to be a veterinarian, there's a process, and you actually have to go to school, and you have to go to school for the amount of time that it's going to take you to get that degree. Even if you finish your schooling a little early or your college a little early, you still have to go through the classes and the courses needed to become a veterinarian. And so if it's something you really want to do you believe that you could do that? Do you just not want to go to college because you don't want to go to college? Or are you willing to go to college for something that requires college?
I think I could try going to college, and I can always just leave if I don't like it, if it's not for me. Because there's still community college, so I don't automatically have to go and pay for college. I could just decide to stop if it's not for me. But it depends on what I'm going to do.
And you still don't know what that is just yet?
No.
So what do you think about being an entrepreneur? What's your honest opinion about entrepreneurship?
I don't think it's for me, but maybe I could give it a try and see how it goes. But honestly, owning my own stuff and then managing it, it's just not my thing really. But I could give it a try.
So what do you think right now, today, if somebody said you can have any job you want to, you got to go live on your own and pay your own bills, and you got to go get a job, or you got to find a way to pay your bills, and you could work anywhere. Age wasn't a factor. What would you do to be able to afford to live on your own and pay your bills and eat, have a car, have a pet?
If I can't get a job?
No, you can get a job, or you can find a way to make the money however you want to.
So what job would I would do?
Mm-hmm. How would you take care of yourself financially?
Well, that brings me back to the veterinarian thing, but honestly, I wouldn't be able to spend a lot of time at home. I'd be there half the time at the clinic. Or I could find a smaller job, like maybe something at a grocery store, or maybe at a company, and I'll see what happens.
What kind of company?
Like maybe a gaming company, because I heard some of the people that work there get paid decently. Or maybe for like a company that takes calls. It depends. I don't know yet.
Like customer service?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what are some of your interests? What are some things that you're interested in life?
I love animals, nature. I like to dance and to cook. And I also like heels.
And boys. Oh, Mom. Okay, so out of all of those things that you said you like, do you think you could find some way to make money from some of those things?
For dancing, I could become a backup dancer.
Okay.
Or for cooking, I could like go on one of those cooking contests and try to win, maybe.
Oh, you really ain't out here trying to work no real job. You just gonna contest your way through life. You gonna go to the contest and make the money and then win the next contest too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hey, it's your life. Sounds like a plan to me.
Or I could become a chef at a fancy restaurant, maybe.
And you don't have to go to college necessarily to be a chef, do you?
No.
Okay.
They have
cool.
classes that you can take, but they're not in college.
Right. Okay, so what is your thought process, last question, on high school?
Everyone makes high school out like it's the worst place on earth, but I haven't been there or done anything related to high school, so I don't really have much of an opinion on there. But I think high school will be a fun experience for me if I decide to go back.
So are you thinking that you may go to high school?
I'm thinking about it, but probably, maybe I might go to high school in another country. I wanted to see how that would go. Like if I went as an exchange student for maybe a few months or a year.
Okay. So that means you would have to go to a regular traditional school.
Mm-hmm.
And you're okay with experimenting or trying that out?
Because I can always just leave if I decide I don't like it.
Anything you don't like in life, you can just leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Miss Jayla, for your answering our questions and helping others understand your thoughts and your understanding of what it means to be unschooled and some of your future thoughts and plans. And you're still young, so this may change. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How old are you?
14 today.
Today